What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the contents of this package show. This week, we will be covering our latest sample pack, the Cookout Composition Pack. This new sample collection pack features a slew of vintage analog synthesizers and keyboards, including a newly acquired 1977 Hohner Pianet T, recorded through two preamplifiers to call on the nostalgic sound of our favorite Cookout anthems. We have the executive producer of this new pack, my man John Smythe. What's up, Smythe? How you doing, brother?
Yo, I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm good. So let's jump right into it. So the Cookout prominently features, obviously, the new Hohner Pianet T that we just talked about, the Krumar Roadie, the Moog Opus 3, and the Moog Siren. These are all rare and limited instruments. Let's talk about, how you got into this and how you were able to diversify all those sounds into one pack, man.
Yeah. So I'm really hype about the Hohner Pianet. I can just, go briefly into what it is. So the Hohner Pianet is an electric piano. People say it's kind of like the middle point between a Rhodes and a Wurlitzer. So there's a few different models. The one I have is the Hohner Pianet T, which is a little more mellow than, say, like the Pianet N, which has a little more bark to it. So the thing that really drew me to the Pianet is the fact it's kind of like a guitar. It's passive, so you don't have to plug it into the wall or into power. There's no sustain pedal, unfortunately.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so it presents its challenges.
Now, why do you think that is? Like, was there any news as to why they did that specifically with this particular instrument?
Well, yeah. So this is it's a vintage electric piano. This is from like 1977, I think, is when they first started making them. But it's a cheaper instrument than like the Rhodes or the Wurlitzer.
Right.
It's just in a lower class,
Okay.
And I believe it was one of those instruments that was really targeted for students.
Okay.
But it's a vintage analog instrument, so it still has that warmth. It's real moving parts instead of
Right.
VST. So yeah, I think it was just the kind of thing where it was a little less expensive than getting like a Rhodes or getting a Wurlitzer, so it's gonna have less features on it.
Right.
But it's this. I love playing this Pianet. Like once I got over not having a sustain pedal, I really just enjoyed like turning all the stuff on. I have it running through a Game Changer audio sustain pedal that I'll use sometimes to sustain notes.
Okay.
It's a guitar pedal, but
Right.
But a lot of times I'm not even really using that kind of sustain because it doesn't sound as natural as like a sustain pedal on a Rhodes or something. So, yeah, I've gone on and on and on even just now because I'm really hype about it and I really love playing it.
Well, I mean, it sounded really, really good.
Thank you.
Now, obviously, this is the latest to the horde that is known as the Soul Surplus Instrument Collective.
Yeah.
I think we're up to somewhere near like 35 to 40 instruments altogether. It's starting to get kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, for everybody listening, what you wouldn't know, except for finding out through the show, is I actually challenged you with this particular pack. The majority of the packs that you executive produce on, the guitar is pretty much always the prominent instrument that's featured in that pack, naturally so because you're a guitarist.
Right.
The only packs I think that wasn't the case was the Roadie Volume 1 and 2, and I think there was one other that I can't think of off the top of my head. But primarily the guitar is usually the star of the show, pretty much any time that you're in charge of this particular pack. The main reason being is because I wanted you to be able to, we wanted to create a pack where the guitar got maybe pushed back into the mix just a little bit.
Right.
Just to change it up a bit and to kind of really more mimic some of the older stuff where the guitar is just not always prominently featured, especially in soul stuff. So what was it like, transitioning into basically a keys player for this pack? Because anybody that's listening to this is probably going to naturally assume that Joel played a lot of the keys in this pack, and he didn't play any keys in this pack, which is kind of crazy because, I've looked over your shoulder while you've played keys in the past, and you're not a piano player, so it
Yeah.
doesn't mean you suck or anything like that, but you're just, that's not your wheelhouse. So,
Yeah.
you told me straight up that you were a little scared,
Yeah.
which I loved because I kind of feel like when we face that fear, that's when we do our best a lot of times.
Right.
So
Right.
in my opinion, I think that this is just going to be one of those packs. I think this is going to have the same tail as like a Port Rich, where it could come out, but months later it's still selling regularly. I think that this particular pack is going to be the same way. But again, would love to hear what it was like, transitioning into prominently featuring the keys on this particular pack, and the challenges that may have presented itself with.
Yeah. So what's funny? I've actually been playing keys for most of my life, which is kind of why if you look at my technique is it just comes from years and years. Like I've probably been messing around with it, just messing around for probably about 20 years now. But it's just years and years of teaching myself and not really having the right technique or using my thumbs the right way. So, but I started playing guitar, 11 years ago. So, it's really using my knowledge and theory and understanding music through guitar that helps me, along with, of course, the raw, the raw skill I have playing piano or keyboard or what have you. So when it came to this pack, I think really what drove a lot of it is the joy that I had just playing the pianet. Like whenever we're on the phone, like if I'm always sitting in my studio, you probably just hear me like tinkling around with it.
I hear it. Yep. Every time. And pretty much every time I'm like, can you please pay attention to what we're talking about? Turn that off, please.
Yeah, it's just something about it. It's it's just a real instrument. The Opus and the Rhodey, I use those a lot. But those are electronic instruments. Those are synthesizers. Where like this like a guitar, it needs to be amplified. The pianet has no volume knob. It's just a bare instrument. There's just keys on it. And I found myself getting lost in the raw sound of it. So the way that I would do the compositions, I'll lay a bass line down, and because I'm a little bit handicapped as a keyboard player, I'll probably do like a triad in my left hand, and then like try to form some kind of melody. And because the pianet is so warm, and there's not a lot of high end in it, a lot of times like the top end, like what I'm doing in my right hand, will get lost unless I'm like up really high.
Right.
But what it does is it helps bring ideas to what I'll do with the Rhodey. So after I lay the bass and the pianet down, I have some kind of melody in my head, and then of course the Rhodey. I think I use really on all the compositions the vibraphone sound, and that has like it's very sparkly. It cuts through, but like
okay,
when you're high up on it, like the high octaves, it really just sings.
Right.
So with the Rhodey, I'll do mostly texture stuff. And then the Opus is just like, that thing is like a secret weapon. Of course, you guys know we have two of those. I have one here at my studio. Joel has one down in Delaware. And,
right.
I didn't use that one as much on this pack. But I'd say it's probably in about half of the compositions. But of course, that just kind of like, it's like the icing on the cake. It pulls everything together.
Right.
The guitar was actually the things that sometimes I've recorded them after the pianet. But I remember you referenced when you first came to me with the idea you referenced the OJs.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do. What was the name of the song?
I don't remember, bro.
Okay.
I don't remember what I had for breakfast today. So
Yeah. But I listened to what the guitar was doing, and of course, like anybody who's played in church, you never really know what the guitarist is doing because the guitarist is usually just all up in his own world doing whatever.
right,
Because he's not
right.
the main part of the music. So I kind of just mentally got in that space, and a lot of the guitar parts, they're complementing more so than driving the show.
Mm-hmm.
But even sometimes recording the guitar right after the pianet as like the third thing that I'll do. A lot of times I can hear other parts because I know how to play the complement parts. Like it allows me to hear the rest of the music.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean even from that OJ's track, that's where I came up with the idea of it being like a cookout. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
the overall vibe of this kind of music. The good vibe.
Right. Yeah, that was pretty much the overarching desire when I came to you with the idea. I kind of just wanted something a little more vibey because sometimes the musicianship on the team is so good that you guys can kind of get lost in the sauce and you're just like you're galaxy braining a composition, and it's like you listen to it and it's just like this is literally the greatest sample composition I've ever heard. But like a lot of our customers might not necessarily know like what to do with that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, and so I felt like this particular pack kind of brought it back down to earth and kind of brought it back to the essence of a lot of the stuff that was more sampled like in the 90s and the early 2000s. I mean, shoot, even till today. And I know the one thing that I particularly appreciated about the Pianet was I tend to take all the highs off of like keys and stuff when I produce anyway. And this one sounds like I don't have to touch it at all. I can just chop the sounds up. Zari and I were listening through the compositions in the office, and it was just when you went to the bag of just kind of letting those chords kind of play together, it was just like, bruh, we don't have a pack that sounds like this pack, which is
wow.
weird to say. But that instrument in and of itself, it's just nice to hear it introduce itself on this particular pack just because it just brings a totally different vibe, mood, texture to any of the stuff that we've done in the past. So and I even appreciate the way that because I specifically said to you, I was like, I want less guitar chords and more guitar noodling.
Right.
So, when you were first sending me some of the initial ideas, I was texting you back in all caps.
Yeah.
I was like, listen, man, anytime that you have, anytime that you throw like a real basic lead on a guitar and it's octaved, you're gonna get me right in the breadbasket every time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it was really good, and that particular sound comes from like that. That's like, I guess that's a Wes Montgomery vibe or whatever.
Yeah. So I'm a naturally when it comes to guitar, I'm more like a jazz guy.
Right.
That's kind of where a lot of the stuff that you say is like galaxy brain. It kind of is because naturally like when I think 70s, I'm I'm more so gonna go towards like Herbie Hancock or like
Right.
uh Roy Ayers. That's actually
Mhm.
what someone said that this pack gave them Roy Ayers vibes, and that's kind of like exactly.
Mm.
But the sweet thing about Roy Ayers, which it makes that comparison even better, is that Roy Ayers, like if you really know Roy Ayers, he's one of the best vibraphonists to ever
Mhm.
live. Like he is an accomplished jazz vibraphonist, but what everyone knows him for is uh Daylight and Searching. But what's the one that everyone plays in the summertime? Everybody loves the sunshine,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that's really what this pack was about. So there's like the jazz guitar kind of plays into like that jazz soul, but I'm again like pulling back the guitar and and pushing for the vibraphone on the Rhodey and the Pianet for that
Right.
soul sound, you know?
You know, one thing I think that I'd like to do for next year, and we're kind of already doing this for the holidays in the winter that are coming up. I just really think that we just need to start putting out albums like that signify the beginning of these changes in seasons and stuff like that. Specifically summer and Christmas time.
Yeah.
There's something about the vibe of when you get that first or second week in June, and then that, you know, the day after Thanksgiving, you're just transported right into Christmas.
Right.
And I just like listening to these compositions, you know, it's interesting because up until this point I had been okay with, you know, everything being royalty free, and I still am, you know, that goes without saying. That's our business model. But there's just something about this particular sound that I feel like we're still kind of holding back from just casual listeners, and they'll never hear this stuff, you know, because they're never going to come to Soul Surplus ever. You know what I'm saying? Unless they maybe stumble upon the media part of what we're doing with podcasts and stuff like that. But this stuff is just so good. I mean, you literally could have taken this and made this into an album. And because I know what I'm going to do is I'm going to take probably like 3 or 4 of these, and I'm going to make these into songs. And then I'm going to throw them in my phone, and then I'm going to, you know, open up the sunroof, and I'm going to put the windows down, and I'm going to ride to it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's literally that good. You know what I'm saying? So throw some of Pudge's drums on it, you know, to give it a little bit of movement, you know.
Wow.
Just really, really proud of you and the job well done that you did with this pack, man. It's really, really great.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and thank you for the push and the nod towards something different. And I think, you know, I'm not gonna say what's coming out next month. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Quite interesting.
Yeah. So actually doing this pack is really helping me kind of get in the mode of creating compositions and creating sort of a going kind of in the same direction that we did last time, but you know, a little more towards like a different vibe this time around. I'm speaking very vaguely because I'm not going to give it away because you guys will know when it drops.
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure just even with the vagueness that you say, everybody knows what you're talking about. Yeah. So shout out to being terrible at keeping secrets. My man John Smythe, everybody. No, but seriously, man, this is we definitely like. This is just, it's like 1 through 10. It's just, yo, this is really, really amazing. There's more than 3 times like I put stuff on, and then I do the sit back in the chair with my eyes closed and just kind of like, bruh, with the ugly face, you know.
Wow.
So now this is really good, but yeah, man, appreciate you hopping on. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover specifically about this pack that maybe you wanted the fans to know about?
Wow. Yeah. Again, like you said earlier, I believe you said you definitely want to get the stems for this one, because I don't know any other packs that are gonna have this many rare instruments,
right,
or vintage instruments recorded through like actual tube amplifiers. I'm not talking about UAD tube preamp, even though it's great UAD stuff. You know, I use that stuff too, and I'm not talking about you know, the Hohner Pianet VSTs, even though I have the Keyscape one, and it's good,
right.
But I compared it side by side. Like I literally have my MIDI keyboard like perpendicular to the Pianet, and it's almost,
it doesn't compare.
not even close. I've heard Rhodey VSTs, and I'm not gonna talk about that. So yeah, the stems definitely go for the stems. The other cool thing about the stems on this one is that the way that I mastered them, although the guitars are pulled back in the compositions and how I mixed it, the guitars are still mastered, so they're peaking some of them they're not like, of course, brick walled so that they're all gonna peak
Right,
at
right.
but they're loud enough to where, if you want to mix them in your composition to have them a little bit higher, then you kind of have almost a different sounding sample altogether. So yeah,
Mm.
definitely go for the stems on this one.
Bet. Yeah, this was definitely one of the ones that I just kind of felt like, we're introducing a brand new instrument and even just the style of, where we're going with this particular pack. The regular sample pack I felt like wouldn't do this particular pack justice.
No.
And while we do have the composition format available, the stems is definitely the way to go, especially with this one, even to just get the Pianet by itself. And I know it's a little expensive, but it's definitely worth, a lot of times we do get emails and DMs and sometimes guys are confused why, the composition packs are one price, and especially like the composition and stems pack is priced that way. But there's just a bit more love in the composition packs in general, just because in essence what in the regular sample packs is kind of we're just more capturing a phrase. In the composition pack it's almost in essence just a song.
Right.
It's a mini song. So there's just a lot more love, a little bit more attention paid, like what you were just talking about, where you may not use the pre-tube amplifiers, or the two preamplifiers with the regular sample pack, but because
Right.
it's a composition pack, you'll push the pedal a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that you hit it right on the head. Yeah, the melodic loop packs, those are a little more produced, if you want to say like that. Produced meaning,
Right.
of course, their loops and they're meant to work 4 bars or 8 bars at a time. Where, I'm not looping anything in these composition packs. Like I'm playing it through
Yep.
all
Top
the
to
way,
bottom.
top to bottom. So
Yep.
yeah, everything
Yeah.
you
And
said.
it sounded it's just really good, man. This is a top 3 for the year, and it's not number 3 and number 2. So
Oh wow.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's really that good. Like I mean that's just me. That's just me, you know what I'm saying? And that also anytime you hear me go there, that's because I'm already thinking about what I can do with it,
Yeah.
So take that as, as you will. But yeah, man, appreciate you hopping on and just giving us some insights, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.